Oh my god, I just saw a Trabi. Hey, and welcome to Lichtenberg, part of the district of Lichtenberg. Yeah, I'm gonna explain this a little later, but first of all, it's good to see you. It's good to be here. We have great weather. The sun is shining. It's getting spring. So let's see what we can find today in this locality.
Lichtenberg is east of the center. The fact that both the locality and the district share the same name is not so uncommon in Berlin. I've read that for reasons of disambiguation you call the locality also Alt-Lichtenberg. It is located right outside the S-Bahn-Ring, and in the south you have Frankfurter Allee and in the north you have Landsberger Allee, two big roads.
If you've seen my previous tours, there's something different today because I'm on a mission. I asked a friend of mine who sort of sent me here to this locality, and she said there's this nice theater and there's also a nice park. And so I have a checklist today. And on this checklist is the theater, there's this park, but there's also a market for Vietnamese goods, I think one of the biggest of this kind here in Germany. And there's also a cemetery which we will visit today, which hosts very prominent, very famous artists and politicians of the early 20th century. So let's go.
I started my tour at the underground station Frankfurter Allee in the very southwest of Lichtenberg. It's very crowded and very noisy over here, so I immediately looked for a change of scenery and went a little to the north to the town hall.
I am in front of the town hall of Lichtenberg. You can see it written here in those golden letters. They say Rathaus, the German word for town hall. And Berlin has plenty of town halls or Rathäuser because of the history. Many parts of today's city were independent cities until the early 20th century, so they all needed their own town hall. And what I think, what is really charming about this one is, let's look over here, we have a body bear. So body bears you will find all over the city, and they are painted in different colors, and this one is really colorful, and I think it may brighten up your day. I found the theater. Well, actually it was not that difficult because I looked it up before I started the tour. However, it's a nice building. I don't have much more information right now, but unfortunately, like most of the cultural institutions here in Germany, this one is still under the lockdown. So I guess for like 1 year now, they were not open. So let's keep fingers crossed that they can soon open again and continue with their program.
Right next to the theater is the park that my friend mentioned. It's a nice park with water areas and lawns, and people were enjoying the sun. I also went through this park, but it was not too extraordinary, so I continued.
I'm here at Löperplatz, and Löperplatz marks the historic center of Lichtenberg, of the locality. And I'm really fascinated at the moment because right next to me there are some flowers. I will show them to you. And these are actually the first flowers that I've seen this year, and I needed to be careful not to walk on them accidentally. However, behind them in the background you can see the historic church of Lichtenberg, and it's in a really good shape. And on the left hand side you see a building that was definitely constructed in the GDR times, and that's another contrast, a contrast of new and old, which is really typical for Berlin.
I took 2 more shots to illustrate this. Here in the foreground you also can see a memorial site. It is dedicated to anti-fascists who died in the resistance against the Nazi regime in the 1930s and 1940s. I proceeded to Gewerbegebiet Herzbergstraße, an industrial site or commercial site.
I'm here for a little break. Excuse me. Now, when you're walking around the city, it can be quite exhausting. I finally arrived at Dongshan Center. I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly. It's Vietnamese, and it's a shopping center, sort of, or a market with many halls, and inside these halls there are I guess in total hundreds of sellers, usually selling their goods, from grocery to garments or electronics. Currently, because of the lockdown, many of those little shops are closed.
It's difficult to describe the magic of Dongshan Center. I think you really need to go there and see it with your own eyes. I couldn't take any photos at the inside, so I hope these impressions help you a little bit to understand the place. The whole area around is quite diverse. You have old industrial and commercial buildings with some remarkable details, as well as this very brand new hall, for example, or this rather not so nice building. I think this shot helps to illustrate it. On the left hand side, one from around 1910 maybe. On the right hand side, one from the GDR times, which I think is abandoned. And that's another point. In the whole area you would find some buildings of which you could not be sure if they were still in operation or not. And also a car which was definitely broken. So I had reached 3 goals of the day already, and I walked further to the east towards the cemetery. On this way I decided to cross through Landschaftspark Herzberge. More than just a park. Although you would find many people doing sports or going for a walk, this whole area is partly used for agriculture, and this is what it was used for in previous times. This shot illustrates the dimensions, and it's crazy to imagine that in the background behind those trees, hundreds of thousands of people reside. And I became a little philosophical.
I think discovering a city is a lot about discovering dimensions. I learned this today as, of course, when you look on a map you have some sort of an idea, but if you are exploring this area actually, you realize that the dimensions shift, and especially here at the very east of the locality of Lichtenberg, there's a lot of green. It's a park, Landschaftspark Herzberge, and yeah, that's a big surprise to discover this area.
So I finally reached Zentralfriedhof Friedrichsfelde, a real tongue twister. It is located in the southeast of Lichtenberg, and it is huge. On the one hand side, it is a cemetery for normal people. On the other side, it is something special because of the dimensions and some of the people that are buried there.
I promised you to show you a cemetery with famous persons, and I finally arrived here. The sun is going down, but yeah, we still have enough light to discover this place. And it's sort of moving because the first memorial site that I encountered here is for victims of the German Revolution, so of the revolution of 1919. or 1918. After World War One, which ended in 1918 with with the defeat of the German Empire, there was a movement to install a republic here, which was finally successful. But during this fight, a lot of people died. Most famously, Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg, and they are also here part of this memorial site with a lot of other socialists or social democrats. Another aspect of the cemetery are the graveyards for famous artists. Painters, sculptors, and writers are buried here. And I found the graveyard of a woman that I really appreciate, Käthe Kollwitz. She's done such a terrific work in hard times. Further to the south, you would find another memorial site for socialists. And in front of the cemetery, there is this square, and this could have been the time to say goodbye. However, I wanted to show you something else. And then all of a sudden, there was a surprise. Oh my god, I just saw a Trabi. You can't imagine what that means to me. When I was a child, I loved those cars, and they have become super rare now. And it was pretty much the only car available in the GDR. Well, not officially, but it was the car for the masses. And if you were lucky enough to get a car, it was a Trabi. So now I haven't seen one in, I don't know, month probably, and now I just saw one and I was like, oh my god, I need to take a photo for you guys. And I fiddled out my camera and totally messed up with the camera mode, but I got it, and here it is. So I wanted to show you a last thing. And while my mood generally was good because of the nice church and the nice residential area, I was also aware that right here, the Staatssicherheit, sort of secret police of the GDR, had its headquarters, and many people suffered here. I wanted to finish this tour with another significant spot, one that I hadn't had in the original list, but there's no way that you could ignore this. It's the former Stasi-Zentrale. So this used to be in the GDR the institution for surveillance, for security of the state, which meant that they captured people, that they did many bad things. And behind me you have their headquarters. Unfortunately, it's also closed, but if you're around, definitely check it out. And for me, it's time to say goodbye now and see you at the next tour. Take care.